Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome to yet another developer interview with Victor and Michael of the Wayward Realms team over at Once Lost Games. Now the creative and gameplay directors, wouldn't you believe? Please do drop this video a like and a comment so that the algorithm knows you're engaged, and perhaps hit that subscribe button so I can finally hit that 1,000 subscriber goal we've been going for the last 2 months. I really appreciate the support. Please do enjoy the video, and I will see you on the other side. This content is made possible by our channel members at the Lawsworn level: Paladin Steve, Stug, Skull, Amazing Gaming Productions, Dean Hill Jowett, Oldwood, and Vixene, and in the Jack Pack, Teddy Rex and Couple of Adventurers. Thank you all very much. Well, chaps, things have progressed. It's been a couple months. We're getting closer and closer to early access phase 1. Hopefully you've now got a solid product, or a product that is beginning to solidify a tad more. And I thought we had a really interesting conversation last time about sort of the overarching philosophies of what you wanted to achieve with the Wayward Realms. But now I want to kind of get down into the nitty and the gritty. You might have seen the lore video I did. Is I want to experience this world. I want to be a person that exists in this world. So I want to know, I'm going to get off my boat onto Ijar, either clandestinely or I'm going to go to the Port Authority. I'm now in the city. I've picked up a quest through some means or other, and I'm heading out of the city. I want to get myself to the dungeon. Obviously, Daggerfall spiritual successor, the quest takes place in the dungeon. I want to go and delve. My travel time there, my traveling there, what's that like?
Well, for early access, just completely set on iJar, you're not going to have the super crazy long travel times. It'll take a few hours to get from one inn to the other. So it's still, it's a good walk, but it's not going to be super crazy. And we will have fast travel. Right now, it's still pretty limited. So we're going to be adding more and more complexity to that. Right now, it's a bit more. Well, it's kind of like the GTA 5 zoom in, zoom out.
Yeah, where you're sort of switching characters. Yeah,
right. Yeah. So that's kind of what it is right now. But again, that's something we'll be adding more complexity and stuff too.
So I suppose what I mean is I'm wandering around, and we sort of touched on this last time. I've got my site A to B. Is there going to be something that might draw my attention off? Maybe given to me by the virtual game master, sort of, let's say, not just bandit camp, because you told me off last time. I said there's a bandit that pops out. And, it could be more stuff. Maybe there's a merchant that wants to exchange rumors on the road, or maybe a variable could be thrown into the quest as I'm going to the location. Maybe another offer to sort of betray the original quest giver, or something like that. So that the world itself, and I'm going to compare it to Daggerfall here, is more than just click button, arrive kind of close to the dungeon gate, go into dungeon.
Yeah, that was a very complex question.
I'm a very complicated man.
There's a couple layers to that, but the idea of the fast travel system, we're doing the GTA zoom in, zoom out. You can also just walk the island.
That's
walk
what I'm
the game
saying.
space. The game space is completely open, so you can choose to do the fast travel. And we chose the GTA, the zoom in, zoom out for iJar specifically for two reasons. One, stepping stones, making sure our tech is in place. Like there's a whole bunch of back end stuff that that we're going to use that system and then build on top of them for the next iteration. It also iJar is also a small enough space that we can implement that system and not have it make you lose the world. Because one thing we really want people to have in the Wayward Realms is that sense of space. That, unlike other games where things are very cramped in, it's very theme parky, there's space. There's emptiness. There's nature and wilderness and places you can just walk to for no point whatsoever. and it's that emptiness that gives the content actual meaning. So you could I can see people doing it, like having the fast travel option, but just choosing just to walk the island because
I would be that guy.
I just want to look at the procedurally generated forest and how beautiful it is and how like non-repeating it is. Or people who just jump there straight away and not really experience the game world as per se. We have ways we want to get around that. We have ways to explore forcing exploration. That's one thing we want to do. But for at least for the EA one, the idea would be giving players the freedom to engage or not engage with that space. As time gone for the EA, as we push past EA one and as we go towards a full game, we are going to want to have a system that kind of drags you into that world more through the fast travel system. We looked at many options, like having like a character moving around, an icon moving through a map. We have ideas
Kind
of
of like a Kingdom Come Deliverance type.
Yeah, something like that. We also have like hyperlapse, like where it'll be the Daggerfall travel mods or tedious travel, where you just like zooming through the forest. You could stop at any time. We have a whole bunch of rules around. We've thought of that. We actually have ways of implementing that with controls to make it so that you can go anywhere and stop at any time and do custom things around it. Like we again want the empty space to be explorable and to have meaning, because if it's just if you never go there, there's no point in having it. Exactly, right.
Yeah,
but also we want to. There's also like that. There's also like if you never go there, then the world isn't as big as you say it is. That massive map the game space we're planning isn't actually that big when you actually can't reach places.
We'll touch more on that in sort of the second half when we talk about Daggerfall.
Go ahead, Victor.
Well, I just wanted to cut in real quick because Michael was saying EA1, which me and him are very familiar with.
Sorry, my apologies.
That would just be early access at launch, and then we've also got like EA2, EA, however.
So you're doing a phase sort of, quite par for the course. Really, I think it's good of you to clarify each time it comes up, though, because there's going to be a lot of naysayers that come out of the woodwork and say, they said they were going to do this. Not yet.
Oh, yeah.
Patience, young grasshopper.
Yeah.
So I've for the sake of argument, I've got my rangery dude, my Aragorn ripoff, and I have zoomed myself to the dungeon location. Dungeons in Daggerfall could vary wildly on how grandiose the outside was. It could be a hole in the ground or it could be a castle. These outside locations, how have you crafted them? Could I run into one of these locations, say, if I've zoomed up to the top of a mountain with one of your systems and I spot, not Ubisoft style, but in that kind of sense, I don't want to loads of fucking, do not throw loads of icons at me, please. But I want to be able to go, that's not a rock formation over there. That's a tower. And I can walk to that mountain. But I want to be able to notice locations from maybe a couple mile away. I assume that these are designed with a little bit more attention to detail, maybe a bit more handcrafting going into, hey, here's a dungeon.
Yeah, well, especially on iJar, since it is a smaller space, we do get the luxury of being able to put a little more handcrafted touch on things like that. So for a lot of those, you definitely will be able to see something that, like, significantly points out, there's something interesting over there that you can go to.
See, that was a nice simple question. Was that a simple question for you, Michael?
That was simple enough. Yes.
Are there pretty things for me to see? So let's open up the dungeon door. Is there what am I going to see? What do you want to make me feel as? What do I see is probably Dungeon Master. I open the door. What do I see?
You see a dungeon, Jack. What do you want? It feels like you're in a dungeon. Yeah.
What do you want the player to feel when they're going into, say, iJar's an ex-prison island? Let's say that I've found an old prison area, not the pit, but not something that's very, say, safe. What is what techniques are you using? How do I feel when I go into this dungeon?
Well, I would say, like, when you open the door, what you see is darkness. You know, we
So
do want them.
that's a lot of mods come out to just make things darker.
Yeah. Yeah, like we do want that sense of foreboding, right? It's a dungeon, it's scary, there's danger there. I mean, you know, maybe not all the time, depending on
It
what
depends.
the theme is.
Am I going to find a candle in a dungeon that's not been open for 10,000 years?
Now, all the torches are lit. There's like
Yeah.
furniture. There's no dust. Yeah.
There's fresh apples in a barrel
Yeah,
somewhere.
there we go. Exactly. Yeah.
So
Little
you
gift
are
basket.
you see this. I realize I phrase things very esoterically. That's just because I'm autistic. But in terms of the 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 darkness and the idea of these are places that perhaps have not had a living person set foot in them for some time, or something that maybe, or at least things that are not native to that environment. They're, I'm not a beastie, so to speak. I'm going to see. I assume I will come to know tile sets, a la Daggerfall, or is this something that you've managed to disguise quite well? What?
So yeah, that really comes down to the technology we're using. Correct me if I'm wrong, Victor. If I'm wrong, probably not. But what we're looking at is not necessarily unlike Daggerfall, which was generating out. I believe there were just multi-room block templates with connectors. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's very much.
Spaghetti-like connectors.
Yeah. You can, so if you walk into a space, you can start understanding. I am in this block set with this configuration. I'm here, and you can run the map however you want, right? We're not doing that. What we're doing is that we're generating the dungeon more. The proceduralness is going to be very much on not even room by room, but elements that make up a room by elements that make up a room. So we'll be able to using Procgen. And again, Procgen has come a long way since Daggerfall, has come a long way since even Minecraft X number of years ago, right? Like the technology, and not just the technology, but also like the technique and the philosophy and the tool sets that we have available to make procedural systems is way more advanced than even it was like 5-6 years ago. So the idea was that we'd be able to generate a dungeon, figure out essentially figure out the space, figure out what rooms there are conceptually, build them, link them, make intertwining paths, and then start filling them with content. We can do layer by layer. So and the room themselves will be more like generating like squares, like individual unit block squares. This could be an empty space because it's a multi-level room.
So the
right?
rooms itself, the room itself has individual segments which are themselves Procgen. Is that what you're describing there, or no?
Not quite. So it's like build with the wave function collapse. So it it like slowly builds out all the layout and stuff, and then for like an individual room, the idea is like it fills it with like say a set of like furniture. Say like this is the kitchen, right? So it has a set amount of things that it's going to throw in there and like different arrangements and stuff like that. But it's going to be like the kitchen theme of that room.
It's funny how to bring in the roots of Daggerfall being Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. There is a chap by the name of Rob Kuntz who I think is the last one of the original people that created Dungeons and Dragons, and he has something called concept first design in terms of designing a TTRPG. It's amazing how similar his sort of thoughts around concept first and then building out from there seems to apply to this coding technique. I'm not an IT guy, so it's going to go straight over my head, but it does sound incredibly similar, that you've actually just made the numbers do what the guys back in the 70s were attempting with pen and paper anyway, which is exactly the feeling I think a lot of people are going to want, especially the people that watch this channel. So we've got a dungeon which is going to feel as if it makes sense rather than just being, apologies, old Bethesda, I love Daggerfall. You guys saw me streaming it a lot a while back. It's not going to be the spaghetti hallways of Daggerfall necessarily.
Right. Yeah.
No, it's going to be much more controlled, much more constrained.
Coherent.
And that's the thing too, is coherent and purposeful. Like we want to design the dungeons want to be built with purpose in mind.
Hmm.
So a good video, like I want to shill this channel because it's a really good channel. It's called Mr. Wendell on Games, and he does a whole bunch of interesting game reviews and game concept reviews. He does one video called "A World Not Built for You," an amazing video, looking at Baldur's Gate 1
Great game.
or 2, maybe both. I think maybe both. He was looking at both of them. And so he talks about how a lot of the dungeons and buildings in that game are not built linearly. They are built as if they're living spaces. And so you can't get lost in them. You can't show up in a room being like, this room's completely useless. There's nothing here for me. Yes, the room was built for its initial purpose, and you've just wandered in. You're an adventurer. You have nothing to do with barrels full of like salted cod or whatever, right? Like, that is not adventuring. That is not adventuring gear. Yes, that's true. We when we're building out, when we want to build these dungeons, we want them to have an eternal logic. They are spaces that were lived in, built out with meaning. Like when we tag, like the idea of the build out process and layers is that one of them is going to be what was the original architectural purpose of this room? Like, so that then that clicks in, that builds out the rooms, like waveform collapse. So we're not like, when we talk about the smallest components, we're saying this room is custom fabbed out this many units by this many units, and then we plaster walls and floor on it. We're not saying
I
chunk,
think
chunk, chunk,
I
chunk,
am going to have to ask for a
Yeah.
layman's like 20-second explanation of what the hell is waveform collapse, because
It's
I've
very
got an idea
yeah.
of what it might be. I can kind of picture what you're getting at, but I'm not a computer guy. I'm a
That's
guy that
totally
likes to
fine.
read books from 100 years ago.
That's totally fine. So waveform collapse is a mathematical model that was developed, not that long ago, like within the last 2 decades. And so the idea is that it is a probability system. So it's saying you take a model, you take like an actual thing in the world, you take like a picture or like a layout of an actual dungeon, and you use it to build a rule set saying, if this tile, i.e., a corner, is usually mathematically very usually beside these types of other types of tiles. It's just a math saying. If you
It's
have
like
this
an
element,
LLM, but for mapping things.
not really. No, it's way
No?
more simple.
Okay.
No, it's just rules to saying if I have a corner piece beside me, the probabilities are I'll have one of these pieces, and here's the ratios, and it has that for every other type of piece. And so we say I'm putting down an empty floor space. It goes, okay, on each of the 8 sides around it, here are the odds of what's around it, and it slowly fills out as it goes in different directions, not in circle, just randomly. And as it goes, the waveform collapses into a reality. This is the dungeon layout using using these seeds, which is the randomness to kind of determine randomness, so that you can regenerate the same dungeon with the same seed and same rules over and over and over again. And so you go from having its chances of things happening in a random generator generates you a dungeon essentially, and it's very much a 2D flat thing, but you can extrapolate into 3D environments. So that's really quick what that math tells you. So it's really just saying, here are the rules to build a dungeon. Here's your instruction: randomized dice to roll random pieces and build it out as you go, right? So eventually you said, hey, I can't build anything here because there's no rules, or it has to be this piece because that we've constrained everything around
We've come back to the back of the dungeon master or rolling on tables to find out what hallway to do next.
It does. It does it very quickly. So anyway, so rolling back. So we generate these rooms out with the initial purpose of the space, the builder and intention of the space. But that's only a first layer. And then we'll have multiple layers of the generation where eventually you'll go down to, okay, what are the inhabitants of the space using the space for? Because that could be a different map on top. If you have orcs building an environment, building a dungeon with orcish architecture and reasoning, but then you have, I don't know, vampires inhabiting it, they might be using the kitchen for a different purpose because
vampires confirmed.
Yeah. But theoretically, but the idea is that we have not only a singular purpose. Purpose can be inferred by each layer of this generation process. So you can have architecture and major furniture, and then things that inhabit it could be using it for their own purposes with their own items brought in. So it isn't just a one layer generation. It is
you can
multiple
sort of
passes with additional
generate a history
almost, yeah. But and then say, for example, you go when you clear the dungeon of all vampires, and then you leave, you go away for a couple of years, you come back, goblins have taken over the place, and now it's all goblin-y. Same architecture, same setup structurally. Now there's different inhabitants, but now you have, goblin armor, goblin books, goblin food.
Goblins, you say?
Yeah, right. Yeah, there we go. but that's essentially it. Like, the idea is that not only do we have singular architectural context, the system is designed to give meaning on multiple passes as we build up the space. Like, so it's even deeper than that. It's taking the concept and really pushing it even further. So.
Nice.
Yeah, I did want to comment on one thing, because you asked if we would recognize tile sets, and tile sets, yes, but that's different from, say, like the modules that Daggerfall had, where the module was all these rooms and they're all always the same. There's a hidden door in that spot right there always. But the tile set would just be like sort of like the theme of the dungeon that we do want you to recognize. So like when you do walk in, you notice, oh yeah, this is like an old orcish crypt, and then you're also aware, like, okay, well, what kind of enemies can I run into here? Like orcish skeletons, orcish zombies, maybe an orcish death knight. That's going to be bad, right?
That's a dead day. That's a bad day, Bear. Yeah.
My wife, her favorite hoodie remains the Wayward Realms hoodie with the Death Knight on it.
Nice.
In fact, I was doing something with another games company making a TTRPG called Untold Destiny, and in the group picture we took is her wearing the Wayward Realms hoodie. So it's everywhere. Like I'm on streams with people, and it's the Wayward Realms bug. So it's infected my life, and it's not even here yet. Look,
that was the aim.
By the way, the new merch you guys dropped today, do you know how tempting that is? Stop it.
Yes. No, we know exactly. Yes. So buy it. I mean, that's how it stops. You're no longer tempted by the thing until you buy it. I mean,
that's actually the only reason we're here. We're just gonna force you to buy it.
There is some really nice stuff on there. Go check out the merch shop. There you go. Yeah. But so we've dropped in. Everything looks natural, or is supposed to look natural, and or coherent is probably the best word to use.
Yeah.
There are a few things that happen in Daggerfall dungeons that, after a couple dozen to nearly 100 hours of play, I've learned, and that is how to look out for hidden doors, and how to kind of deal with the oldness of the game. I am going to assume that if I go in full sword and board, plate armor knight, who isn't exactly attuned to finding hidden stuff, like there's a keyhole behind this rock, I may not have the same ability to see it as if I were a thief, or maybe more of a lightly an adventure type. So do my skills as a character at present or in EA1 affect my ability to find hidden stuff?
For EA1, probably not, because we probably won't have that. It's just a layer that we didn't really want to necessarily add in for EA1. But the intention will be for as we move towards the full release, is that your character skill set will actually gate you out of certain portions of a dungeon.
So we will be gated. I mean, we already knew this from the Mages Guild requiring magic, but there are certain parts of dungeons that if you do not have a certain skill set, like if you can't pick that lock, or if you can't find the lock to pick, you're
not necessarily. Detection, like seeing stuff in game, like sensing and detecting stuff. That's a bit of a different conversation completely from the other day. But I'll focus more on like physical abilities. If you're not able to pick the door, you cannot get past the door. Now we're not going to be. No, I was going to say now. We will always make sure that there's multiple ingresses and egresses into these things. So I cannot pick the lock, but I have a war axe. You go, here's Johnny it, if you really wanted to, but the idea would be like, and this is coming from, some concepts of older games, but in terms of the tabletop space, this will be Westmarch's old school Westmarch's concept. Would be the idea that dungeons are re-explorable.
I like that.
Yeah, because you're either not skilled or the players didn't want to push their luck to enter certain parts of it. But the idea is not necessarily gating players forever from a certain location. It is saying, hey, I'm a low-level thief. I can't really pick this lock. I'm just going to leave it here. You come back later in your playthrough as a much better thief. Now you can go in and explore the area.
Have I got an in-game editable journal to make a note in? That's all. That's something that old games had a lot.
I believe we do have editable journals. I was looking at the other day. If I'm not mistaken, I was seeing an editable field. But that would be something we should include on that. That's something that should be added in.
No, I like the idea of being gated out of content like that, and using the Westmarch's terminology as well. Again, especially for my nerd audience, it shows some cred. But but that actually kind of moves on, and maybe Victor, this might be more up your alley. Say I am this sort of low-level thief, and somehow I pick that lock that maybe I shouldn't have, and the Orc Death Knight rises from his crypt. How there in my good friend the Brass Drakes Fader Isles D&D campaign, I missed one session, and in that one session, the rest of the party released a Death Knight from a dungeon, and that Death Knight chased us around the whole of the island. One of Oblivion's big things back in the day was a monster that will chase you out of its cell and into the open world. Are they going to do that here?
Depends on the monster, right? For the most part, no. You know, they'll everything sort of has its own logic, right? So, like a Death Knight probably just wants you out of its crypt, unless you've maybe taken something from it. Then maybe it might come knocking on your door, later on down the line.
That's a terrifying thought.
Ring, ring. Yeah, ring, ring.
Yeah, stuff like our monstrous creatures, they're really just territorial, right? So if you're out of their way, they're probably not going to chase you further. Maybe if they're hungry, they will go a little bit further to try and get you. But
so I can't lure them into the inn and have the innkeep do the deed for me, is what you're saying.
There's a fun strategy, but probably not. I mean, it really, but again, it depends on the opponent. Like we have we're working on some pretty dynamic NPC logic, and you could you could probably do it with a couple energies, but the enemies that will pursue you that doggingly will either A, kind of have an idea of what you're doing and dodge you, or B, not really care that you've led them into like an army barracks and that's okay, more things to kill, and just starts like destroying everything. You know what I'm saying? Like you got that default game.
Ave Maria starts playing in the background as body parts just go flying.
Yeah. It may, like the typical gamer logic. It may not apply for stuff like that, but it's a good thing to check though. But the answer is it really depends on the monster, depends on what's going on, depends on what transgression you've done to them. So, but it is a seamless world though. Like the idea is that you could have that monster follow you right out the door.
So there's no loading screen between exiting, say, Balfour Parva and going into the wilderness.
No loading screen. Period.
There's no loading screen from going into a dungeon.
No.
There's no loading.
Yeah, and that's part of the Procgen process is because we have this stuff laid down so well. We have the logic and layer. And now, there's a couple things we have to be aware of. Like, for example, when you get, you have to get in triggering range, quasi-generate out the dungeon in first steps and then finish up as you walk in. Like, there's a little bit of, if you kind of freeze the game and kind of look ahead, you kind of see it's really kind of under construction. But it kind of there's logic we have and kind of tools we have to make it so that when you step into a dungeon, pieces of it or most of it's already been pre-staged, or just kind of finishes the loading process and carries you through. So it's less about hard cuts, more about gradient preloading and pre-staging in case you go in certain directions, right? So
it's sort of how Star Citizen or No Man's Sky will load in the planet below you as you're approaching it. That kind of as you approach landmass.
Good comparison.
Yeah.
I find that really interesting. I play games that are quite old, so when I hear no loading screen, it still blows my mind. Even though people that play modern games probably just go, yeah.
I did want to say one thing though. Going back to the having the monster chase you, there is actually also ones that will do the opposite of that, or say like our Caliban. If you run into a single Caliban, it's not going to engage you. It knows better than that. Those are the little four-legged, kind of spiky mouth creatures that eat magic.
Yes. I think I saw the lore drop on it a while ago now.
We've shown it a few times. There's a screenshot of one on the Steam page. Probably the easiest way to find one. But yeah, those little guys, if you run into just a single one, he's going to run back, maybe try to lure you along
into
the way.
Rest of them.
Into the rest of them.
Little bastards.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing. We can have more engaged behavior. One second here. We have more engaged behavior. 1 second. I need to be back. It's starting to rain.
No worries. Duty calls, man. Duty calls.
No problem.
Victor. Get it, Victor. Go.
So I like the way that you bring up the Caliban monster having a tactic, because again, we're going straight. I love how much pedigree Wayward Realms has behind it, because all I'm hearing is old school tabletop, and well, hell, even 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons is poking its head in here, because we have a creature that will act in a way that is consistent with its physiology and its lore. I like that quite a bit. I often find that too many games, Starfield, have enemies just run at me and get mowed down. One last question on dungeons, I suppose, because I think dungeons are going to be, from what it sounds like, as coherent and you're in a dungeon not playing a game kind of concept is what I'm sort of picking up. Skyrim doors, I will be perfectly honest, I despise. However, I also understand and can appreciate them at times. So, by which I mean, the dungeon itself will have like a sneaky loop around, a sort of a quality of life thing, but for me is kind of suspension of disbelief disturbing, not breaking, but it disturbs it. Is this something that you are implementing, or are you wanting things to, as you say, are you sacrificing that kind of speed out of the dungeon for more coherency?
Well, and I use this a lot, especially when talking about Starfield, but it's that sort of different design philosophy or sorry, not Starfield, Skyrim, where Skyrim is a theme park game, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a lot of fun. I've played, thousands of hours on it.
I got told off for Skyrim comments last time, so
yeah, it always comes across as negative, but no, that's just its design philosophy. It's a theme park, and even those dungeons, they're a theme park ride, right? You go through it, you're seeing the little story unfold, and you come up to the big bad, you kill it, and then you're right out,
big chest,
safely out and on your way to the next ride, right? For us, that's not our design philosophy. We really aim for more of a realistic, sometimes it's not convenient, and that's part of the fun of it. Right.
I suppose in terms of realism for dungeons, then, is that something that as a dungeon master I run into quite a bit is I need to make sure the dragon can actually live in the dungeon that it's chosen for its lair. I'm hoping that you guys have appropriately sized tunnels and rooms for any gigantic monsters that might need slaying.
No. They're just like normal.
How did you get in here?
You step into the room. It's like I don't know, like a massive dragon just in the room. Just I'm just gonna deal with it. Or
well, see, don't
ask questions.
Right outside the dragon room, you'll find a note from some prankster saying, "Haha, we built this dungeon around this dragon. What's this idiot gonna do now?"
Yeah, he was sleeping. Yeah.
He was asleep.
That could be a fun campaign, actually, where there's a dragon that takes like 1,000-year slumber and a city is built over him. Anyway,
actually is kind of cool. Not gonna lie.
Write that one down.
Write that one down. Yeah.
Yeah. Credits.
I did also just to get back onto the question subject. We do also want to have like multiple entrances to some dungeons. Again, sort of depending on the theme. If it's sort of like a more man-made one, then it makes sense to have more. But if it's just like a cave system, well, maybe not. Just depending.
I ran a dungeon not too recently, and I apologize to keep bringing this back to Dungeons and Dragons, but because this is a CRPG and CRPGs started with the pen and paper, I feel that the relationship is still incredibly close. I ran a dragon dungeon, which was an active volcano, and the dragon wouldn't enter in via the tunnels. He would enter in from the crater, right, the roof. So things like that sort of environment design, how much attention to detail is like, are there named dragons inhabiting islands that are legendary, where you get old Schmaug, the intellectually and intellectually distinct Gauschmschige, who is green, living over on that island, and we don't go over there, and that certain things require a little bit more thought than perhaps you might trust to the wavelength class.
Well,
go ahead, Peter. Okay, so two things. One, myself, I'm a tabletop RPG guy, and
would you like to come play a session with me, sir?
I know. And then one of the things coming into this game across the entire ground was going traditionally, like most role-playing games, video game role-playing games haven't really touched back to the source material in a long time.
Mm,
So one thing that we're doing here is saying, okay, we kind of stripped away all the assumptions of what a computer role-playing game looks like and go, okay, what's the modern field look like? So that's why West Marches, like West Marches have come out well after anyone's really checked in. What's going on with tabletop gaming as they go
yeah,
back and check in, right? So
yeah.
we've done those check-ins. So a lot of so when we talk about why we're doing certain things and seeing more modern tabletop game design stuff creeping in, that's why, because I'm one of the people driving that, going, okay,
In
what's
that
going
case, you
on
were
in the
doing the
tabletop?
Lord's work, sir.
Yeah, thank you. And then two, you can actually get away with a lot with Procgen, making it uh, feel or seem plausible. If you
Mm,
do the rules a lot right, and you do the complexity correctly, and you make sure you can capture some edge cases, the world that gets generated out, including kind of the lore and connections to it, will be coherent to it. Will be coherent. Will be self-contained and correct. You just have to be very smart and crafty about how you're going to have this massive world gen out. Make sure to capture these edge cases. Make sure to be aware of these things. We're probably going to have, you know, test generations that are going to go terribly and learn from those mistakes during the dev process, right?
Well,
But
it can't go as
you
bad
can
as
get away with
Arena,
it.
where you
Yeah,
lock someone into the market district.
yeah, but you can get away with it. I mean, you could, if you do the rules right. And again, modern proc gen processes have come a very long way since, have come a very long way in the last number of years, both in
Hmm.
terms of the logic and the actual technology to implement it. Like we come a far way, so we can capture those stuff natively, be aware of that stuff, and on top of that, design some rules to make sure
Hmm.
that we don't do silly stuff like that. You can't, there's a market you can't escape from, or that the lore hookins that we have available hooking correctly to what's in an area, right? It's making sure we capture that stuff. It's
I'm
all
in the
that's
middle of
Yeah.
about it.
She right now. Why is there an elf tower just in the middle of the York City? That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly, right. No,
Yeah.
and that can be captured again. That layered generation I spoke of. That's part of it too. We do the same thing with towns and other stuff. We go, okay, we're going to lay out the town. This is an orcish town. Therefore, orcish layout rules apply to this first pass over it, right? And then
Hmm.
we do a next pass and say maybe humans are in the town. So you have orcish architecture, but then things start looking more human on the ground level inside the houses,
Hmm.
right? We
Hmm.
can do
Hmm.
that. Like as long as you layer it out, you can capture that, and you can make sure you don't get an Alvin
It,
Tower because it
it
won't be in
it
the rules, or
almost
maybe
it
we want an
almost
Alvin
sounds
Tower.
like a too good to be true sort of thing here. So I mean I'm looking forward to seeing the finished result
Yeah.
of this black witchcraft you're describing to me. You want to jump in there, Victor?
Yeah, well, now that Michael's given you the design answer to that, I'll give you the
Yep.
lore answer to that, which is big giant creatures don't live at the bottom of little tiny dungeons or whatever.
Exactly.
But like basically, like when we create all the creatures, like we decide what environments, what ecosystems they live in.
Hmm.
What are they
Hmm.
hunting? What are their territories like? That kind of thing. And so something big, not a dragon in this case, but wyverns, which would be the next biggest
Yep.
dragon like monster. They live on the coasts, on mountains, or in the forest, and
Hmm.
they'll have
Hmm.
their nests in those areas depending on that. They're not going to be nesting deep down in a dark
Yeah.
tunnel somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Dragons are a very different thing
Yeah.
because they're more like a divine being in our setting
Ooh.
than just a monster. So they're going to be special. They are
Oh
named.
yeah.
They have a certain region territory that they each have control or whatever over.
This is something that I can see being quite well, because when you think of dragons having territories and having these massive hundreds of mile ranges that they consider theirs, I'd imagine that gives you some good room with the size of this map to have a lot of dragons about, or at least a handful.
Yeah, I think what was the amount? Some like maybe 13 or so for the
That
That's
archipelago.
that
that's
sounds
a
about right. That sounds about right.
13
13
to
is a
15.
good number. It's a strong number. A little
Mhm.
factoid for people. I don't know if it's actually true, but I've always been told this and thought it. The reason 13 is an unlucky number for some is apparently the Knights Templar were executed by the
Mm.
King of France for being treasonous on a Friday the 13th. Apparently, that's where that comes from.
I'll buy it. I'll buy it.
Yeah. And he was also wearing a hockey mask. He was also wearing a hockey mask for some reason. It was weird.
Oh, hello there. I am the business elf. I interrupt this video as it is my responsibility to pursue the algorithmic and financial interest of the library. My apologies. If have you not done so, please like the video. Be sure to comment as well. And, of course, subscribe. In addition, I have enabled channel membership. Please to click the join button below this video and consider becoming a member. Your support will enable this endeavor to evolve. We wish to move beyond the use of Annie and Owl AI, as well as provide more highly productive content. I apologize for the interruptions. Your likes, comments, subscriptions, and memberships are highly appreciated. Now, back to the video.
I think it's probably, for the next 20 minutes or so, a question that often comes up below, and I'm sure will happen again on this video, is someone's going to come along and say, I really like what you guys are saying. And I know you've released an announcement saying what you're going to show us more quite soon in terms of like a dev diary type thing. But what people often bring up are 2 games, 3 games, but we'll narrow it to 2. One is Daggerfall, which for the intent of this, I will call sort of a macro procedural generation on a very large scale. And the other is Starfield, which again is quite macro, but tried to do it micro as well in terms of dropping locations into smaller things. I can understand the concern because we keep being burned by promises of procedural generation. There's No Man's Sky and Starfield, and everyone sort of takes it with a pinch of salt now. So you've explained already several times the wavelength collapse. But what? And I'm just going to let you answer because I already have what I think your answer is going to be. But for the sake of people's concerns I've heard this story before, I've seen these moves made before. What do you say to the concerned citizens of the kingdom of gamerdom?
Can I take this one, Victor?
Go ahead.
Trust me, bro.
I do. That's why I gave you money.
Yeah. So, anyone can have a Procgen system isn't the hard part, like having waveform collapse. So there's a whole bunch of other mathematical models. Some of them are actually really new. There's apparently the guy who made waveform collapse is working on a new thing, is my understanding. Who knows if that's workable in the next couple of years? But anyway, the math isn't necessarily the hard part. It has to be the planning on top of that to give that generation context and changing context. So we have a intricate faction system. So a lot of faction stuff really plays in. Like, for example, we'll talk about top layer architecture. That's racial factions. This is an orcish town. Here's the rule set, right? It's being very careful and meticulous in your planning of how we're going to make the generation work. We have the layer system, which we find. I mean, a lot of things do layered systems, but we have it very fine tuned to kind of the context of the rest of our game. Primarily the faction system, a lot of in works with our item system and stuff like that, and obviously the art assets. But really, it has to be the planning process. We have to think about why is this dungeon generating? What information do we feed into it? I.e., a whole bunch of faction and related tags and a whole bunch of information that we feed in to say, hey, this dungeon has this set of elements. And that's really where the issue comes in. If you're not really, really meticulous and careful about how that turns out, you're going to either have a very flat generation in the sense that you have a lot of things generating, but they're not deep, right? The depth isn't there anymore. Or you have a lot of depth but no breath. You get a lot of kind of artificial. You get that really superficial depth. But really, when you look at it deeper, it's more like just a vertical slice that doesn't really have things to grab onto. We want to do both. We want to have the breadth and the depth of the generation of context, right? And it involves roping in our factions, roping in our game systems. Like, for example, having skill check gates that you can't maybe reach at a certain time or a certain playthrough, but you can go back and hit it later, and that opens up another component of the dungeon, right? Making things replayable, opening up that
Yeah,
replayability. It's
yeah,
about
yeah,
working in
yeah.
both the game lore, the game engine, and also what players are going to want to do with both those elements, right? So really the difference between us and maybe some things that kind of fell flat would be making sure that we have that design in place to give the procedural tools, which are a lot of them, and they're really awesome, but give them actual runway, give them actually something to actually generate that's meaningful, and not just something that's really thin, or either depth or width, right?
You're not
We want that.
using it as sort of filler material. You're using it
It's the
as
no, it is one of the core. I mean, really, the
Mm.
Procgen is one of the core systems because it links in. I mean, if I it links into so much. Like the thing with the Procgen links in with so much. It's really
Mm.
hard to it's really hard to think about really things that doesn't necessarily
You
touch.
can't have the Wayward Realms without Procgen.
No.
Yeah.
Especially with the scale of this game.
Oh yeah.
Progeniting
Well, the
cities,
scale is
progeniting dungeons, progeniting the terrain, like not terrain,
yeah,
the terrain
yeah.
set, progeniting the biomes, and also, and the other thing I'll add is this is part of the design is if you have tags and labels and associations with things, those things can change. You can
Mm.
you
Mm.
can you can like I said before, you can go into a dungeon and wipe out the inhabitants of that dungeon, and then come back here later to see what happens. All it is programmatically is saying, up on this layer, we delete this tag of orcs being in the dungeon, and now it's elves being in the dungeon. And then when we return to generate, elves now generate a whole new context. Same dungeon, now it's different. Now
So
there's
there's sort of a mix of things being generated when the
Mhm.
game is made on your end, and also what is being generated for the player at that time.
Yeah,
Um,
and again, it goes right back down to that design. Like our design philosophy is really focused on what Procgen can do, how
mhm.
it hooks in the rest of the game, and I think that's really the difference. It's not just a
It's
show and tell system. It's something that's deeply integrated with a lot of the
so
rest of
you're
the game.
okay. Victor's
Yeah,
wanted to
Yeah,
say something for a second.
yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
No. And that's
I
all I have to
mean,
say. That's my trust me, bro, slightly more explained, stretched out. So
to add to what Michael was saying, and there's another point I want to cover as well, because I do a lot with the social media side of things, so I know what people's concerns and what their worries are, and I
Mm.
know exactly what people are
Mm.
thinking on this when we bring up that subject. But really, it's about taking advantage of that Procgen, having that reactivity that Procgen allows us to do a lot more easier and more complex than, say, in like a static world. So,
Mm.
like I think the best display of that would be through like the cities, where we can have a city, right? You go there and it's a city, and you go there each time and it's the same way. But if something changes in the world, if there's a world event and like war wipes out that city, we can do that. We can replace it with ruins, right? Now it's a
So
ruin city.
this is something. This is something I asked in the last interview, and you guys were a little cagey on. If you don't mind me saying it, is like you said, can we destroy cities? And now you've said it again. So cities being destroyed is something that happens in games like Kvatch in Oblivion, or you get the Windhelm. Is it Windhelm, or is it wherever the college is in Skyrim, or the starting town that gets burned down? You say that you destroy the city. Can you then attempt to, or will it then attempt a rebuild? Will it say a few years later you'll have ruins, but then you've got like a survivor tag that you've inserted in there, and there's tents now or something like that?
I mean, in theory, yes. We haven't planned that specifically, but like we do have the ability, and like it is something we are planning, where those cities can kind of grow and prosper, or maybe turn into more
Slummy type
rundown,
things, and
right?
yeah.
Because we can switch out all like the
You've got like
assets within it.
a security level for cities and things like that, how safe a particular part of a city is. And hey, look at me, I'm not even on the team, and I'm just kind of running away. I am procedurally generating what might be there.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah, but
all I require is an interview every few months.
but like, yeah, that's like a good example of using that Procgen to actually make that world more dynamic, take advantage of what it can do, where you can swap out those assets You know,
It's
it can be a ruined town.
selling
It can
point.
be a prosperous town. It can be a slummy town, and that can tie into what's happening in the world and what your character's been doing.
Living, breathing world.
Yeah, and it can change over time, like he said. And the thing is, like, you know, we have kicked around this. This is just off the top of Victor said. We've talked about this specifically before, and like we're like, this is going to be a little bit pushed off a little bit. We'll see if we can hit that mark.
Again, just to stress.
But yeah,
phases.
everything is up in the air. Yeah. But it's something we have to talk about, and really what it is when it comes down to design. And I think this is one of the, like, you know, one of the selling points as to why we think our Procgen is going to be something that can sell is you don't have to put a super complex system on top of that to make that evolution happen. You just put a system on top that just talks about, oh, you know, city destroyed, this we change generation this way. Over time this town starts rebuilding itself, change some tags, change some faction associations, and then, you know, and slowly start rebuild. That can just be a little module on top that does X number of months, does a little, like, almost like a stupid simple city builder game that we in the corner that runs by itself. No, but that's the logic. You can just apply those little logic systems that don't do a lot, don't take a lot of processing, but if they output change requests, this city now changes this way, change these tags, increases information, even down to, I mean, like when we generate city, we actually like look at like plots and look at like different sections and little like plots. Now, this plot is improving, this plot's degraded, you know, like we can, I mean, you can really, again, it comes down to the design aspect. If you parse and break down your problem enough, you can find your solutions, you know, and you can implement new solutions on top of what you already have. Very modular. We have a very modular system that we can tack little things on. Now, destroyable cities in the game, God, that'd be awesome. We can get there. There's pathways to get there logically. Of course, it comes down to effort and assets, really, because we now need to figure out how we show a burned down building in the game. How do we how do we do that? Right? It involves effort and time to actually make it come fruition. But in terms of like, but we have lots of things that we can do because we built a core system that can
not
get
quite yet. The solidified product is iJar, and it is trying to get that moment to moment going. Victor, do you want to have anything to add on to that bit?
Yeah, well, I did want to just say first that, again, keeping in mind early access, everything's going to be a lot more simple. These cities aren't going to be growing or getting completely wiped out or anything like that just yet. Right. But it is what's in the plan, what's in the pipeline. I did also want to say, I know the big thing that players are concerned about when they hear about a Procgen world is that there's nothing to do in it, right? You'll have miles and miles of wilderness and nothing there. And that is also something that we've been, trying to combat. We do want it to be big and vast. And if you just want to ride through the forest for like an hour, you should be able to do that, right? Without having to be attacked like 20 times along the way.
Not realistic.
Right. So we do want to have that, but there is also a lot of things like we can do to make it interesting along the way. And, part of it is just the activities that you'd be able to do, like, harvesting resources or hunting wildlife, monsters, whatever.
What do you mean you'd rather spend the time fishing?
Exactly. Well, like that's a really good example, right? Come across a stream, start fishing, see what you get out of there. And I know, like, the big issue is that people are used to those smaller theme park worlds, and they just, they want to head out in a direction and run into things and discover new things, right? Like we all get a little joy from finding something new as you explore. And
there's an enchanted axe in this tree stump in Seydanine. That kind of
exactly.
There is actually an enchanted axe in the tree stump in Seydanine, right by the way.
Yeah.
You got to get it. I always get it and then sell it and buy a sword.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that. Just go up to the wizard that falls out of the sky. He's got a short sword of sparks on him.
There we go.
Yeah, that's true.
Answer for everything.
But one of the things that I've discussed with Michael before about a way we can combat that is by having the major cities act sort of like a hub, right? So you fast travel to a major city, and then from there, around it, you'll find like the other towns, resources and dungeons and stuff like that.
don't remember when your Wayward Realms radio episode went a little bit awry, and you had your animated artwork, which was fantastic, by the way. I loved it. There was I can't remember the chap's name who was on there with you and Mr. Peterson, but he was talking about his mill that he'd put on iJar.
Yeah, that was John.
Yes. I really appreciate, and he said that he's one of the early guys that finds that kind of stuff fun. No, hi, man. I like it as well. I really appreciate the fact that the island itself will be coherent and will try and make sense.
Yeah, and the idea, like with that, is also the further away you get from civilization, the more dangerous it's supposed to become.
Yes.
Right. So like that's where
it's very much like a Points of Light campaign, which happens to fit very well in a West Marches style play. Just to move us on a little bit toward the end, let's have a little bit of fun. In terms of combat, I'm a sword and bow guy. I like a little bit of magic, but my first character, you might have seen me simping for about 10 minutes straight a little while ago, which for some reason everyone watched. And all I did was I just said, this is the character I want to play first. And it was quite literally it's just fantasy Batman Aragorn. That is my first character. And I don't even like Batman. And it's just, so I long sword and bow, and I want to have kind of that martial experience. I've done a lot of combat reenactments, live action role play, things like that. My sword and my shield are over on the wall there. My helm is over there. Combat is something you've said is going to be quite good. But that's not where I was going to go with this question. I'm going to stick to the time limit. I would like a magic sword, and there is a particular magic sword that I find incredibly potent, and that would be Stormbringer of Elric of Melniboné theme. You guys might know it better as Umbra from the Elder Scrolls series. It is a sword that steals souls, a black blade that steals souls, and is just weird and evil, and is maybe a god from another dimension, but we won't get into that right now. Are there such incredible artifacts to be found within the archipelago? Will we be able to maybe draw a sword from the stone? Are there specific named treasures that I can go and, without quest markers, delve and find? Follow like a treasury clues type thing in different books, because that'd be damn cool.
Well, simple answer, yes, there will be like magical relics with like strange, unique powers that you can find in the world. In ages past, magic was a little more prevalent. And so these artifacts are still out there, and they've sort of been protected through time, through the centuries, by the magics that they have, right? That's how they're so preserved. So yeah, those will be out there to find. They won't be in a specific location each time, so you can't just boot up a new character and go find that one. X.
Thank you. One thing I hate is net decking. I'm an old TCG Yu-Gi-Oh player where people used to go online to find the best deck, or in Dungeons and Dragons they'll try and find the best build. I am more than happy for it to be natural. But you are telling me that I could go and find somewhere an Excalibur.
Something like that, yeah. I do want to touch on specifically the soul eating. That's not something that really happens in our world. We do see some stuff with souls, which is really interesting, and you guys will be able to find out about it in the lore. But for the most part, like we're staying away from like the soul magic thing, kind of separating a bit from the Elder Scrolls in that sense.
Yeah, they're not. You're not going to get your battery sword. I'm sorry.
Elder Scrolls wasn't the first to do, but don't worry, guys. I will personally figure out a way to mod in Stormbringer, and maybe a couple of my own creations as well. It's amazing the things that you come up with at 2 a.m. in the morning. You can't sleep, and you've got a notepad by your bed. Is there anything in particular that you guys want to get across out of this conversation that we've not already touched on?
I don't think so. I think if anything, I would just like to reiterate, like, of all the things we talk about, these are all things we have planned, and it might not all be there right at early access launch. But even throughout early access, we'll be adding in more depth and complexity to everything, and really getting the feedback from players, which is the most important part. We want to see if these things that we're adding, if they work, do they make it better, do they make the game worse, right? We want to get that feedback and work towards really making a fun, enjoyable game with a lot of complexity, a lot of depth.
That I am very much looking forward to playing. My life is over when this hits, and I'm going to ask you. I know exactly what's going to happen here. But so early access release dates when?
When it's ready.
You can't blame me, chaps.
And we say that only because we want it to be we don't want to. I don't like disparaging other video games publicly. I don't like doing that. But we don't want to No Man's Sky this. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to have
you don't want to have game. To have
we don't have to have eventually a great game that really stands out and is amazing, but we just train wreck it at the very opening gate because we feel we have to hit it out. We're making great progress. We're on a great track. The things we're seeing internally is really, really good. I'm super happy with what I see. But we want when we get that release out, we want it to be people going whoa instead of being not happy with it. You know what I'm saying? So we want to have that cookie, but things are going really, really well. It's not like
Have you guys played a build yet? Have you got to play much? I mean, obviously you play it, but have you got to sit down, roll a character, and as you've been playing, you've just sort of gone, holy crap.
Well, we do have daily builds now, so we got a new version out every single day with some new updates and stuff like that. The character creation isn't quite all set up yet, so we're not rolling different specific characters quite yet. But
you've got stand-ins and pre-built stuff, I take it.
Yeah, the stats aren't playing an important role yet.
Have you had any moment through when you're playing, maybe you're walking around Belphapava or you're walking around Idra or you're in a dungeon, have either of you had any moments where you've sat back and you've just gone, wow, or something that caught you by surprise that maybe you could share a little bit of?
Yeah, it's really walking around. We're just demoing some stuff and just what we're during the conversation, someone just I forget who it was, but they're in the map and they just hit oh, I'm just gonna start walking forward. They hit the forward button and they're sitting there walking forward throughout this meeting. And it was a long meeting, and by the end of it, he turns around and looks we covered only a chunk of the island, but not a lot of the island. You're this is a very the space is very large and it's really and this is just the small one of the peepsqueak islands of up in the corner.
This is the backwater of the backwater.
This is the backwater, small no who cares island. You're man, this is big. This is a big game and there's a lot of space. The other thing for me as well is our magic system's coming along. And looking at, I can't really go that we're not talking. You chose dungeon today, so we're not talking.
I did. Look. Next month or a month after, I'm getting you back. We're talking magic.
No, okay, but we're seeing how that develops and how that's coming along, and again, the modularity and the freedom of choice for players in that is starting to come to fruition, what we're seeing, and it's another little corner, and it's really hard to describe. I tell people a lot, almost everything we're doing is a paradigm break in some way. Everything we're doing is pushing paradigms and new directions and really pushing the envelope across the entire board and seeing them every time we see a system hit a milestone. It's wow. We hit the milestone. It's absolutely amazing. And we go, even just this one thing alone is amazing and would completely change everything if this was the only standout system from this game. And then the next thing happens, and then the next thing happens, right? So it's
all successes all the way down. We're all standing on top of thick fields of wheat. Yeah. I jest. We will. I'm gonna very looking forward to this. But Victor, yourself?
I think for me, it's just the landscapes and the town, seeing Belphapava.
They've dodged me. They've both dodged me.
Well, no, just it goes hand in hand with that scale, right? Seeing this big city and you see all the people walking around.
Do they behave?
I think that's really cool.
The NPCs,
for the most part, there's still the one they'll get caught on a wall here or there.
I don't mind that too much. I remember playing the original Assassin's Creed and the crowd technology in that, and was blown away by that. But I'm still blown away by going up to Daggerfall, within Daggerfall, the city, and just having a plonked down NPCs just wandering around. and that still makes me go, wow. I'm quite easy to please in that section.
Well, I'm
I
sure
think
we'll
it's
be able to get you. So
I think it's actually very reminiscent of Daggerfall at the moment. Just like in the way the NPCs look, because obviously we do want to capture that sort of like Daggerfall feel, and I think that's really kind of it for me. That it does.
Well,
it feels like Daggerfall when you're there.
That is what I think a lot of people want. Is they want Daggerfall but new.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, specifically to that point, we were talking about like, what's the release date? I think I had said recently on another interview, like when it feels like Daggerfall, when we've got Daggerfall, then we're happy to have that early access.
Still looking this side of the new year. We're still looking the end of 25.
So far, we'll see. There's some more complicated things
to me, man.
But it's a we'll see, and like it's a we'll see, and like it's not like it's an actual we'll see, because we like the development we've been going through is looking really nice. I mean, it's not like 2025 6 7 8 9 no, but like things are moving, so it's not like we're saying because we like what we see, so that's all.
I mean, actually, I think last time Michael and I were on, we were a lot more questioning of the magic system, whether that was going to be,
and that's when he brought it up. The reason when he brought it up then, and you saw my face light up, I was like, oh.
And now we're very, very confident in that.
Yeah, I'm very confident. Like things I've seen this week, I'm like, whoa, okay, like we
right.
like.
Well, I'm going to try and speed up the frequency of getting you guys on then.
Yeah, don't do that.
You've already given me an hour of your time, gentlemen, and I really, really heartily appreciate it. If you have not already, guys, go down below. And there is a Wayward Realms link tree there that you can go and get all the stuff that you need to go and subscribe, follow, buy some merch from them, etc. And of course, do drop a like and a subscribe here, because we are closing in on the 1,000 subscribers, and that will pay my future child's tuition fees when I'm big and famous. I died. I'm back. Yes, no, thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure as always, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Did you enjoy this video? I certainly hope you did. You might expect some music here, but YouTube really doesn't like me using royalty-free stuff and keeps flagging it. So go ahead, drop me a like, drop me a subscribe, leave me a comment. Check out my friends, the Brass Drake and Dean of Untold Destiny, the little spinning heads there, and click on the other video. Please do, it really helps out the channel a lot. Have a good one.